Welcome to Tailor-Made Chaos. On this podcast, we'll bring you some of the highest flyers and most interesting people in and around the fitness industry. We'll talk and laugh with CEOs, franchisee groups, exercise specialists, and to those who work in sales and marketing, and we'll share their insights and knowledge of all things related to the business of fitness. Love what you hear? Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up to date. On with today's show, proudly brought to you in conjunction with Fit Into Shape, a small but dedicated team of fitness industry professionals, delivering on all of your fitness equipment and gym design needs.
Welcome to another episode of Tailor-Made Chaos, or TMC for the cool gang in the know. We have such a big budget that, our show provides perks like overwing exit seats in economy and using Barocca instead of cocaine to get the party started. That's the budget we have. So today, I'd like to welcome a very special international guest to the show. I wanted to say something like in Chinese, good morning. How would I say that?
Good morning, 早上好.
Good. I put you right on the spot and you performed. And I don't know any different to say whether it's good or not.
I could have said
Anyway, for those of you who don't know who Ed is, you are indeed an Aussie. You can hear that accent coming through, but you've had some great experiences in China over the last 17 plus years. We're going to get to that later in the show. And hopefully, we can create a bit better understanding of your history, of the fitness industry, and get up to speed with what you're up to now. Ready to make a start?
Yeah, absolutely, Glenn. Thanks.
Wonderful. Well, why don't we start with you just giving a real brief intro of yourself, Ed?
Okay. Brief, or shall I go hard on it?
Go brief to start, and then we'll ask some questions and go hard. So.
Okay. So certainly I've been in the industry a long time. Like yourself, Glenn, one of the vets. So more than 30 years. But I didn't start in this industry. I actually started as a PE teacher, physical education teacher for children.
Yep.
And I did that for quite a few years. I really enjoyed it. I always enjoyed working with kids.
Yep.
And in particular, seeing their development in their sporting ability. But what happened along the way was I was pretty heavily in the gym at that time, much more so than now. But one day I had one of the fathers come up to me and say, "Hey Ed, I want to lose a little bit of weight. Like, do you have any advice for me?" And so I gave a little bit of advice. I said, "Yeah, you should certainly go to the gym and watch what you're eating and things like that." And he said, "I've never been to the gym before. Like, if I came with you, could you show me what to do?" And I said, "Yeah, okay. So meet me." The next day we went to the gym together and we just did a workout together. I just showed him the basics, how to do it, and he loved it. Like, it was his first experience, pushing weights and in the gym environment. And after that class, he said to me, "Hey Ed, can we do this every week and I'll pay you money for it?" And I thought, yeah, why not? A little bit of side cash. So I think at that time it was like $15 or $20, something like that. And I believe at that time, this is like back in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Early 1990s. I said, sure, absolutely. And he started to do that every week. And then not only him, but then his wife became one of my clients. And then other parents started to ask me advice and they heard about what was going on. So over time, let's say over 3 or 4 months, I built up a small clientele of people that I was taking to the gym every week. They're all parents of my students. And it reached a point, honestly, where I started to make more money from that than I was from teaching. And so then I thought there's something in this.
Yeah.
And this was, I believe there were personal trainers around at that time, but it wasn't very well known. I think the structure of personal training as a business or even as a career was certainly not on anyone's radar at that time. But I really enjoyed it. Like, I love going to the gym. I love running. Certainly love helping people. So I started to do a little bit of both, and I started to do more training with people at the gym. And that's kind of how I started to build up my side business. And I reached a point where I stopped teaching. I went to part-time teaching on the side, and then doing that full-time.
Yeah, wow. Well, we jumped in a little bit quicker than I'd hoped. I actually wanted to start it with, talk to me about, Ed Curtin as a kid. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
What were you into?
Actually, what happened in my childhood is kind of important to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing now. My dad was a police officer, and we lived in Queensland. As a police officer, that means he was moving around a lot. So our family was moving around quite a lot. And I would say every 1 to 2 years, we would just uproot our entire family and leave schools, go to another town.
Yeah.
And as time went on, we went from smaller, like we lived way out back in the west, like small places where the population was 25 people, and 4 of them was our family.
Yeah, I actually just recently did a trip in an RV with my kids to kind of go out back Queensland, went up to Winton and Longreach, and you're going through those small towns.
So when you go to Longreach, you keep going 3 hours west, and that's where I lived.
Wow.
Like right on the edge of the desert.
Out on the Simpson, that is some barren area to grow up and be. So
I remember in summer times, which was pretty much 365 days a year. We would go swimming in the local dam. Like there's a small dam that provided water for the town, and that would be the swimming place as well. And then now when I think back, I thought, the entire town swam in that water, and we're also drinking it and using it for cooking and everything as well. So when I think back now, it's quite concerning. But so what happened is, as a child, stability for a child is kind of important, and it establishes your trust and your ability to build relationships. That was something I kind of missed out on, and I didn't realize till I was an adult later that this actually affected me. So every 1 to 2 years, we were changing schools, leaving old friends, making new friends. So there was some excitement in that. However, it gave me a character of somebody that, as an adult, found it difficult to settle in one place. After 1 or 2 years in a place, I felt like I need to itchy feet and need to move.
Yeah.
So there's some positives and negatives to that. But I went to 12 different schools from primary school to high school.
Wow.
And that kind of gave me, I guess, the taste for the willingness or the courage to be able to get out of my comfort zone much more easily than probably other people. Because where I went to high school, mostly in Mackay, North Queensland, a lot of those old friends are still there.
Yeah.
Their families, they're doing the same business their parents were doing, and the generations, in the same place. And while that works for some people, and that's great, it's something that I think there is a little bit of a pity in that as well, that some people have not really seen outside of their own town or even their own country to see what's out there.
Yeah.
So then after school, went to university, studied teaching. I loved working with children.
So where did you go to uni?
In Brisbane, Castledine.
Yeah, right. So it was time to get out of the country towns and come to the big smoke.
Yeah, so
of Brisbane.
Yeah.
And when's this? 1990.
This is. Oh, I don't want to give away my age.
That's the point. Give it away.
1987. Was my final year of school. So 88 was the World Expo in Brisbane, and that was my first year of university.
Yeah, wow.
And it was kind of cool because I was living
Brisbane Broncos fan?
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
Everyone wakes up to himself eventually.
Yeah. But during 1988 was the World Expo, and I just arrived to the big city, and the World Expo was at the beginning of the year. I think it was like 3 months or something.
Yeah.
It was quite incredible. And we got season tickets, like all the students, university students got season tickets. So we had something to do every evening or every weekend if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Just go there and hang out. And it was very interesting to learn a lot about different cultures and countries as well. So I studied university. It took me 4 years to do a 3-year degree because I screwed around a little bit. I studied photography while I was there, and then in my final 2 years got into PE, physical education, and that's where I realised this is what I wanted to do. The reason was I was really. Can I swear a little bit?
Absolutely. You don't come on a show called Tailor-Made Chaos titled Inappropriate or Not.
Okay.
It's not for PG audience, so say what you will.
I was shit at sport at school. I was very, very small. I was a small kid growing up. Every class that I was in, no matter what school I was in, I was probably the smallest kid in every class.
Yeah. And was there, some form of bullying, being the new kid in school, being the little kid, or, some sort of angst that you kind of displayed towards that, or
I think
just joining dots that may not exist, but
you're certainly joining the dots. I wouldn't say anything super serious, but I learnt how to cope with being a new kid in a school is just to be super fucking nice to everybody.
Yeah.
I was the most polite and friendly, and would try to approach new kids in every school that I went to be super friendly and not to have any arrogance or ego that I've come from somewhere else into your school.
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot.
I always found class clown was the way to go. Can you tell?
Yeah. Yeah. But however, in my learning, there was some problems because jumping from school to school, you're learning different topics and subjects at different times of the year, and sometimes in the middle of the year, you're uprooting and then starting a new curriculum in another school. That was a challenge. So some of my subjects were not that good, and sometimes I would play up in class a little. I got picked on by some teachers more so than students, which was a little bit weird. Yep. My dad, being the policeman in every town that we lived in, had some weight, luckily, in small towns. So I would say sometimes, occasionally, there were teachers and parents or whatever that were a little bit concerned to don't upset the Curtin boys because their dad's the copper.
Yep. So brothers.
Yeah.
You said there was 4 of you.
Yeah, there's four boys. My mum kept trying for a girl. She gave up after 4.
Half a cricket team was enough for her.
Yeah. And we would be out. We'd be outside playing cricket every day. So actually, we played a lot of family sport. But when I moved to Mackay, North Queensland, we lived out at the Harbour Beach in Mackay, and there's some waves there, little waves, occasionally when there's wind. So I learned how to surf, and then actually my brothers and I, we all got into surfing, and that became my sport then.
Yeah, wow.
So at team sports, at footy, I was too small. Cricket, I had terrible coordination. High jumping and those sports, I didn't have the strength or the height. So I was kind of like the last kid picked for every PE class.
Yeah.
But surfing is an independent sport, and you can be as good or as bad as you want. It doesn't really matter. So that became our thing. And fortunately, my dad, being a police officer, we lived in the outer harbour of Mackay, which is only government houses out there.
Yep.
And so we literally walked 3 or 4 minutes to the beach, and our home became a base for kids that lived in the town to come out on weekends to our house and have lunch and go to the beach and things like that.
Yeah, well, so you must have been out near Black's Beach, yeah? Or, yeah, I don't know, maybe that's what they call it now.
Yeah. I think that was on a different part of the town.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But cool. All right, so we leap forward. You're down at Brisbane in uni.
Yeah, so down...
Took you 4 years to do a 3-year degree because you played around a bit. Great.
Yeah.
Misspent youth, or just struggled with some of the curriculum, or, it was country kid comes to the city and wants to play? Bit of everything? Tell us the story.
Well, at university, my first... Because I guess growing up as a kid, and our parents, my dad being the police officer and usually the senior police officer in every town that we were in, meant that our parents had high expectations on us and high requirements on us to be good examples for the family. So that meant we were studying hardcore, we were doing Chinese style, 3 hours a night, 5 hours a night. You have to do study before you go to sleep, falling asleep on a dining table, that sort of thing. So we're pushed pretty hard to study. when I arrived at university, it was the first time I realised, well, no one's pushing me to study here.
Yeah.
So I didn't. Like the first year,
Broke the mold.
I broke the mold. I thought, well, and the teacher doesn't give a shit. No one else cares. It's really just on me. So the first few months, maybe the first even year, I didn't do very well and screwed up. And then after the first year, I had to reflect, and my parents reflected with me. About, are you going to take this seriously or not? And so then after that, I kind of did, and I found that PE was the thing that I really enjoyed, and that became my ambition to be a good PE teacher.
Yeah, brilliant. So you finished uni. I'm assuming you went to a school locally in Brisbane, or where did you end up?
On the Sunshine Coast. Yep. Mooloolaba was my first school, and then Maroochydore.
Good for the surf.
Yeah. So it all kind of tied in together. I was able to surf. I was working with kids that like to surf as well, and surfing was one of the sports in the curriculum, which was awesome. So a lot of those things tied in together. And working with kids and just loving it, like living in a beautiful, gorgeous place up there.
Often people say living the dream and they over-refer to it, but it sounds like you're having a pretty good time.
It's interesting you say that. Like the phrase living the dream, I've said that a few times in my life. And at that moment, it really feels like I'm living the dream. Mm. And then later on, you're living another dream and you think, wow, this is also another dream. Not to discount the earlier dream that was also good at that time.
Yeah.
But actually, there's many opportunities in your life to live the dream. It's not just once you've achieved it once that's it.
Absolutely.
And that's certainly what I've learned. And that's that kind of later on in the story I'll tell you about how that brought me to here today.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Well, I guess we fast forward back to where we started the show, and you stumbled into PT. I'm aware you went into the AIF at some point, so there's going to be a bit of a story as to how you transitioned from PE teacher doing PT. I'm assuming qualifications started to come in at some point. Our industry, a fairly immature industry in some ways. Like that was quite early in the days of personal training and qualification. So talk to me about the AIF and the story of how you got there.
Okay, so certainly Kerry McAvoy, Rowena McAvoy are two people that have been very important in me achieving what I have achieved. They're very unique people. They have a unique way of doing things. Some people love it, some people find it a little bit strange, but to be honest, what I learned from them literally changed my life. So I was doing PT. I ended up I'm on the Gold Coast. I'm doing personal training, but I'm doing it out of like PCYC clubs and surf clubs. Like I'm just paying $5 entry fee, taking my client in there and doing it like that. So it's all like on the fly kind of business style. But I was earning some pretty good money and had some great clients. I had this idea. I was living in Broadbeach. I had this idea of how to get new clients. I literally went home on my computer and I typed up a letter. And it said, "Hi, my name is Edward Curtin. I'm a personal trainer. I live in this local area. I'm training people at the PCYC. I would love to offer you a free class to come and have an experience. And then we can talk about what your health and fitness goals are." And I printed probably 1,000 of these letters.
Wow.
And I walked the streets of Broadbeach around the PCYC in circles and literally put them into letterboxes.
Brilliant.
And from that, I got my first handful of like really solid clients, like regular clients. And I thought there's really something in this idea. So then I had another idea. There's a medical center in this area. I hand wrote some letters to the doctors of that surgery. I actually went to the surgery in the evening time and I saw the list of doctors. There's maybe 8 or 9 names on the window.
Yep.
I wrote down all their names and I hand addressed letters to them and said, "Hi, I'm a personal trainer. I'm still learning, but I would love the opportunity to work with some of your clients that need to do exercise." And I put a little chocolate bar in the envelope.
Yep.
And then I went and handed these letters to the reception at the medical center. Now, it happened that the manager of the medical center, this lady needed to do exercise herself. So she was my first client out of the medical centre, and she became a big fan. So then she told all of the doctors, you have to recommend clients to go to Ed Curtin. So by reaching out to the medical centre, and by the way, got the manager of the medical centre as a client, and then she was the one that pushed the doctors. And then I started to get some very interesting clients, you know, people that certainly needed help with their health and fitness and lifestyle and nutrition. And that was the biggest learning curve for me, you know, getting people that have got some serious injuries or some medical conditions, chronic disease. I'm studying along the way. Like, I've got a new client with diabetes. Okay, let's study diabetes.
Yeah. Well, and you know, study back in that point wasn't as easy as what it is now. It wasn't simply just opening up the internet, because the internet was only in its infancy then.
Yeah. There
was a little thing called Google that hadn't been invented.
Yeah. It's anatomy and physiology books.
Yeah.
Certainly at that time. And learning about high blood pressure, what you can and can't do. Like, I'm learning all this stuff on the fly as I'm going.
Building the plane as you fly off the cliff.
Yeah,
I love it.
Like when I look back now, like without any, like, how to say, risk mitigation or anything, what could have happened with some of those clients is unspeakable. You know, I was teaching people how to do exercise, squatting, doing some weights, not really understanding the cause and effects and the possibilities of what could happen. However, I do believe, at the end of the day, people moving and doing exercise has more positive benefits than negative. So I never had any serious problems along that. So I'm on the Gold Coast. Kerry and Rowie had a fitness college there. Ben Butler, who a lot of people would know, a former legend of the industry, he became a friend of mine. He trained at the gym that I was training at. And he said, look, yeah, you got to really meet Rowie. Everyone knows Rowie.
Yeah.
and I saw her like at the Pacific Fair shopping centre on the Gold Coast. For the locals up there, you know very well, the largest shopping mall in the Southern Hemisphere. She saw me there one day. She said, Ed, I've heard some good things about you. I want you to come and work at our college. And I said, oh, well, what do you mean? She said, well, I know that you've got some teaching background and you're a good personal trainer, and Ben speaks very highly of you. So they invited me to the college to just teach a sample class. And I said, what would you like me to teach? And she said, just talk about your business. Talk about how you built your business.
Wow.
So a lot of the stuff I just talked about hand delivering letters and chocolate bars and things like that, I just shared this with a group of students, and they were mesmerized. Like, here was someone standing in front of them that had gone from zero with no guidance or no business training, or very little idea of how to build a business, but navigating a way to make it happen. So that class was great, and Rowie and Kerry and Benny, all of them said, it's fantastic. We'd love you to come and teach more classes. But I needed to study more knowledge, especially when it came to anatomy and physiology. So they put me through the training again. They offered me to do recertify, because my certification before that was some dodgy one, one of the ones you find and you go and do a 5 days training.
Yep.
Then I studied the legitimate course through them, and then along the way learning how to teach. And I shadowed Benny for quite a while for a lot of his classes, and just started to learn more and more. And the curriculum for personal training at that time, I think it had 65 different classes, so 65 different class outlines.
Yep.
That's a lot to learn. But just starting on the ones that I was familiar with and building up more and more to the point where I'm now teaching the entire curriculum with Benny and a few other course coaches. And then started to teach other course coaches, and then started to work on curriculum development as well. And this is where my teaching background came in, because I was a teacher. I knew how to design curriculum. So now I'm helping to design curriculum for the Australian Institute of Fitness, and with the title of Technical Director for Australia. So hello, here's this guy, this kid from nowhere, suddenly now Technical Director for Australian Institute of Fitness, designing the courses for Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, wow. And for those who don't know, we're obviously on a video at the moment. This is an audio podcast, but I see you dressed fairly sharply. Now, if for those who do remember Kerry and Rowena, they did have that certain finesse about them that you know, how you dressed, how you spoke, what you did, imagery was really important. So talk to me about how they positively influenced, you know, and I see, you know, the way you're dressed now, I feel like there's a correlation back to that time frame, and they've obviously had a pretty big impact on you.
Yeah, thank you. So there's two parts to this story. The first part is something that Kerry taught me. He told a story about his early days in the industry. He wanted to arrange a conference or a forum, something like this. So he went along to a physio that he knew, Mr. Tim Cook, a guy on the Gold Coast, a famous guy. And he said, "Hey, Tim, I'm holding this forum. I'd like you to come and be a speaker." And Mr. Cook said, "Okay, anyone else speaking?" And he said, "Yeah, this guy's speaking, and this lady's speaking, and this guy's speaking." And Tim Cook said, "Oh, okay, if they're speaking, then I'll come and speak." At that moment, none of those other people were speaking. So then he went to the second person. He said, "Hey, would you come and join this forum? Tim Cook's already joined, plus these other 2 or 3 people as well." "Oh, if they're doing it, okay, I'll do it." And he did this one by one until he had like 5 or 6 solid, reputable people agreeing to do his forum. And none of them were the wiser that, that it was arranged like that. But what he taught us from this is there is an element of fake it till you make it. You know, if you believe that you can arrange something and you have these, certainly if you have a great network and connections, be brave enough to put it together. You know, these days we're working with Mel Tempest, right? We're in Melbourne now doing a conference for Ignite, and Mel Tempest is an incredible person for networking and bringing industry professionals together.
Absolutely.
So that's the first part. So Kerry taught us this. The second part was about creating perception, because at that time, the perception of the fitness industry, the perception of personal training, and even walking into a fitness center is not favorable or comfortable, and can even be a little bit intimidating for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Especially the target demographics is people that need to exercise. They're the people that feel most uncomfortable when they first go into a gym. So he said, if you walk around with your singlet or your muscle shirt and your t-shirt and your little short shorts, of course you look great, and it's great for you. It's great for your ego, and people even praise you. Wow, you look awesome. But it doesn't do anything to solve the problem of what's the perception of our industry. And what kind of clients are you likely to attract is probably people who are already exercising, and that's not how we grow this business. So he said, put on your Superman clothes. And what he meant by that was cover up what you have to show an image that portrays confidence and professionalism. And later on, it became a phrase, dress like a physio and you will be treated like a physio. Because physios generally wear trousers, leather shoes, a nice polo shirt with a logo, right? So people have a perception of physio, that they're professional people, they're well educated, and they're going to help me. So it became a catchphrase with Kerry and Rowie, dress like a physio, you'll be treated like a physio. And then later on, we even upgraded beyond that. Some personal trainers are literally wearing suits while they're training people, which may be extreme, but in certain cases it could work.
Yeah.
So so as a how to say,
Right.
Okay, the tie I'm wearing today is 25 years old. It's purple.
Yep.
And you may remember at that time, the Australian Institute of Fitness colours were purple. We all wore black suits and purple ties. This is the original tie from the Australian Institute of Fitness.
Wow.
That
I didn't know. Oh, very cool.
And Kerry and Rowie actually bought me this tie.
Love
So
it.
as a tribute to them, that's why I'm wearing it today.
Fantastic. Look, I mean, obviously they had a big impact on your future career, and not to get sort of too bogged down in it, but obviously they were highly influential. So you're at the AIF, technical director. Where to next? Because we've got a lot to cover.
Yeah, okay. So let's fast forward, get me out of Australia, right? Talk about
what led to you leaving Australia?
Okay. Yeah, I'll fast forward this story in like a couple of sentences. life was good, living the dream on the Gold Coast, driving a beautiful car. My bosses allowing me to drive their beautiful cars as well. I had personal training studios. I was a senior person in the Australian Institute of Fitness. Everything was really, really good. And I remember one day I'm driving along the highway on the Gold Coast and just enjoying the sunshine, thinking this is incredible. This is the best it gets. But there was one thing that came to my mind. I've been in this city, this place for a few years. I'm feeling a little bit itchy. And at that time, my three brothers, for very different reasons, all happened to be in China. Like, this is a crazy story. So my second youngest brother, David, he's a professional tennis player. He played internationally. He traveled around the world. He found himself in Hong Kong, met a girl, fell in love, and decided to stay there. 1 or 2 years later, my youngest brother said, "What's going on over there, Dave?" He was in Hong Kong. "What's going on over there, Dave?" And my brother Dave said, "Oh, it's pretty good. You should come over and check it out." So Stephen, then he decided to go over there. He thought, "Wow, this place is really cool." So he ended up staying there as well. He was doing international trading business and teaching English. A funny story about him. That's maybe another day. And then my older brother, Rob, 1 or 2 years later, he said, "What's going on over there?" And they said, "Yeah, it's really good. Come over." So he went over and ended up staying. And he studied PhD in genetics. He ended up working at Hong Kong University as a research scientist. Three brothers are over in China, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on over there?" And they said, "It's pretty good. Come over, take a look." So I went over there, and I thought this place is cool. And I went there just for a trip, a couple of weeks. And when I came back to Gold Coast, that's when I made a decision. In 18 days, I booked a one-way ticket to China. I sold my business, sold my car, quit my job, put my stuff in storage, basically just left everything behind and went to China with a suitcase and a guitar.
Brilliant.
And I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there, but I thought there's a lot of opportunity there. Now, just a few days after arriving, I went into a fitness center with my brother. We did a workout together. There's some personal trainers that were in there, and they saw us training, and they said, "Oh, you guys, you look like you're training hard and you look good." And then my brother said, "Oh, yeah, Ed's a professional in this business." And I said, "Oh, really, really, you should come and do some training for our team." And I said, "Okay, maybe set it up. Introduce me to your boss." So they introduced me to the boss, a lady in Shenzhen, and they had 5 clubs at that time. It was a small chain. And she said, "Who are you and why are you here?" I said, "My name is Edward Curtin. I'm here to change the fitness industry of China." She said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Yeah, and if you're willing, I'd love to use your company as the flagship to show how this can happen." So she was a lovely lady and gave me an opportunity to start working here. They had 40 personal trainers at that time. The first day I was in front of these 40 trainers, I told them, "If you listen to me and my advice and follow it, in the next 5 years, you'll be the highest paid people in this company." They're like, "Oh, that's bullshit. That's impossible. We get shit paid. No one's doing this for a career."
Yep.
And I remember asking a question, who's doing this business for their career? Who wants to do this the rest of their life? And one person put their hand up. And I came from the Australian Institute of Fitness. When someone asked a question like that, it was like, yeah, we're all doing this. We love it.
Yeah.
So it was like shocking for me to see one person put their hand up. However, out of that 40 people, at least 10 to 15 of them stayed in that company for the next 5 years. And 5 years later, we had a meeting and they reminded me of what I said. And they were all the highest paid people in the company at that time, earning much more than the managers.
Well, having that confidence to put it out there, that was always one of the strengths from sort of AIF, but following that through and actually delivering on it was certainly another. And
it was something unheard of in China at that time as well. Like,
because this is around 2007, roughly. Yeah.
Like for them to hear somebody talking about customer service and dress professionally and research your programs, like these are all things that were quite new. Personal training at that time in China was like going back 20 years.
Yeah. Now, we glossed over one really important factor here, and I heard you speak some Chinese early. Had you learnt Chinese before you went over there, or is this all being done through translation? And
Yeah.
or were they speaking English? Like, paint a bit of a picture of that, because I mean, we all have this perception that we have some sort of an idea of life in China. It's a very different world. So create a bit of a picture of coming into Shenzhen as a young Aussie bloke.
Okay. So firstly, Glenn, because you've travelled a lot in Asia and you certainly know China, it's fair to say anybody that's never been to China has got zero idea of what China is really like, right?
Yep.
Because the only impression you have is what you're seeing on media, and that's not true. It's 99% not true, to be honest.
Yep.
So forget about that. If you ever want to know about any country, what it's like, just go and visit it. That's the only way to really know. And likewise, in China, for them to see the perception of other countries, they also are subjected to what they're seeing on media as well. So fair on all sides with that regard. I did not speak Chinese at that time, but I used what I learned from Kerry, fake it till you make it. The company I worked in was nice enough to give me a personal assistant, and that person was also my translator. So I kind of learnt along the way. When I'm teaching workshops or doing training or anything, it was always being translated.
Yep.
But I was picking up words, especially industry terms, I was picking up along the way related to equipment and training modalities and things like that. I started to learn the Chinese for that. So I'd pepper some of my speech with Chinese, and everyone's like, "Whoa, oh, so cool." So people are very encouraging, Any foreigner in China, if you're speaking just one or two words like, hello or good morning or something, people are, wow, they're so encouraging for you.
Look, total transgression here, but you go to France. Most people do actually speak fluent English over there, but certainly in Paris and even into the countryside, if you don't make an attempt to speak French over there, they won't open up with English. I think that's a general rule that, anybody who's travelling, if you can learn some phrases and just some very polite things, typically you find your whole experience of travel is a lot different. Total transgression, but...
Yeah, absolutely, yep. And oftentimes I've found if some Chinese people know a little bit of English, they're very happy to share it with you. You know, like they want to practice, and they say, "Can we speak together?" So it's an incredible culture of encouraging each other. Especially when it comes to language for foreigners. So in that business, those 15 people that stayed, and then the extra people that joined the company, like the company grew reasonably quickly. When I joined, actually the first 3 months of me joining the company, the personal training revenue tripled.
Wow.
In the first 3 months. And the only thing I did was introduce programs, rather than selling classes.
Yep.
I introduced programs and upgrade the professionalism, and we did some seminars in the different clubs to promote personal training to the members. So it was very, very quick uptake. So of course the company is very happy, the personal trainers are very happy, the members are also very happy, and that company then grew. That company now has more than 56 locations, starting from 5, so it's like 10 times growth.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was in the first few years.
Fantastic.
So now I'm going to tell you so that was a life-changing event to have an opportunity in that company, and I worked there for 7 years. It was pretty good.
And you were based in Shenzhen the whole time?
Yeah, in Shenzhen. Shenzhen is a technology city. There's 4 big cities in China. I mean, there's like 150 big cities.
Yeah.
But there's 4 first-tier cities. Shenzhen is the technology city, Guangzhou is the culture city, Beijing is the political city, and Shanghai is the international and the financial city.
Yep.
So I was in Shenzhen. It's a technology city. A lot of young people come to Shenzhen to work in IT. It's a very, very fast-growing city. I worked in the company 7 years, and I had a life-changing moment. I went on LinkedIn, and shout out to LinkedIn, hey? I got a message from a headhunter, and this guy said, "Hi Ed, are you in China? There's an opportunity in Shanghai. It looks like your experience is suitable for this role. Can we have a chat?" And you're always getting messages on social media So you're not really sure, is it serious or whatever, but I just happened to reply. I could have just as easily ignored it and gone on with my day. But I replied, I said, yeah, I'm here. I'd love to have a chat. So I had a call with this guy. He said he's a headhunter representing a new project in Shanghai for a wellness, let's call it a wellness resort outside Shanghai. And they're looking for a GM of wellness. So within a 2-week period, I went from working in that company in Shenzhen, being flown to Shanghai, meeting the chairman of that company. It was a massive, massive company with huge investment. They were putting in more than $1 billion to build a resort. And they're looking for someone that can take care of the wellness part of the business. I got the job. 2 weeks later, I'm handing in my resignation and moving up to Shanghai. And the salary...
This itchy feet.
Yeah, the
continue
salary,
to repeat itself.
Yeah, the opportunity was amazing. I said I could do things that I didn't know how to do. They said, have you ever been a project manager for construction? I said, yeah, no problem. I've done lots of construction for fitness centers, right? They said, have you ever worked with medical professionals before? Yeah, no worries. Because I knew the doctors back in Australia, right?
Yep.
So fake it till you make it. And I sorry to my previous bosses, but yeah, I didn't know at that time.
Well, you ticked a box and didn't technically lie.
Yeah, but however, this is a lesson. If you're a young person and you're making it in this world, there are times in your life when you have to have the courage to know that you may not know now, but you have the ability to be able to learn in a short period of time. Then you can say it. So I went to Shanghai. I became the GM of this company. There were 4 GMs, one for real estate, one for hospitality, myself, one for restaurants or food and beverage, and then myself for wellness. And this center was 400,000 square meters outside Shanghai, and massive investment. And they had an architect from New York that designed the place. Like, it was an incredible piece of work. And I worked there for a couple of years. It changed my life because my learning curve for that gave me the tools then to do massive projects thereafter. My next one after that, a couple of years, was working with Dr. Cooper from USA.
Yep.
Dr. Cooper runs a exercise medicine facility in Dallas, Texas. We call him the grandfather, or probably the great-grandfather of aerobic exercise. The word aerobics in the dictionary was invented by him.
Right.
And he has a research center, the Cooper Institute, where they do research. He's the guy that invented VO2 testing. He used to work with NASA astronauts to prepare them physically to be able to go to space. Like, this guy is an absolute legend in the science and the fitness world. So they have a beautiful center in USA. They wanted to bring their brands internationally, and I became the person that helped to bring the brand to China. So I was COO of that company, but essentially CEO, because the CEO did not live in China. He lived in USA. So it was me basically running the show. And we built a center also outside Shanghai. And then that led to other projects as well. Like, the list of these big projects goes on. But what I learned from each one gave me the tools to take on the next one. And then that brings me to the second to final chapter, is working in B2B management. Returning back to Shenzhen, Shenzhen is the technology capital of the world. All of the big technology companies are there. Like, people say, oh, what about Google? What about Apple? Okay, forget about those when you look at how many people are using Apple devices. They come from China.
Yeah.
Look at the social media apps like like the search apps like Chinese Baidu, WeChat, TikTok, comes from China, Douyin. All these technology companies are in Shenzhen, and they all compete for talent. Like, these are massive companies all trying to attract the best talent into their organizations. So how do they do that? Is they want to create workplaces that are inviting for people to work. So they Googlefy their buildings to put in sports and recreation centres, swimming pools, tennis, massage, free food, dormitories, sleeping pods, like you name it. It's like the best places to work, and they all do it. So, but they need professional people to design these sports and rec centres and to manage them. So that's what I have been doing probably the best of the last 5 to 7 years.
Okay,
Is working with big tech companies, 25 of them actually, and I'm managing those centres.
Yeah. So obviously, you've gotten a very strong profile and gotten to know some influential operators over there. We hit 2020. There's this little thing called COVID that obviously originates out of there, and you're an Australian guy.
So they say.
So they say.
No. Okay. Given that, it's true.
Tell me, what was your immediate reaction? Was it to look to come back to Australia, or was it to stay where you were? Tell me.
Okay.
Tell me about life then.
All right. So at that time, I was working with Anytime Fitness. My role was Vice President of International Operations, helping to grow the Anytime Fitness brands into Asia. They had tried to come into the Asian market, 10 Asian countries. 9 of them were very, very successful. China could not really get a foothold, and that's because the Chinese market is different. The two USPs of a brand such as Anytime Fitness and many others is 24-hour access and using your little fob
Yep.
to access the club anytime you want. So let's talk about the fob. This little fob, so cool, you can access anytime. At the time, these fobs were being shown in the Chinese market. Chinese people are already using facial recognition and palm recognition to buy like a Coke at 7-Eleven. So their technology was way, way ahead. So you're dangling this little fob like it's something, it meant nothing.
Yeah.
And then 24-hour access. Well, Chinese people do not exercise at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning. In fact, almost every fitness center in China opens at 10 a.m. So there's no morning rush. They have one peak time every day, which is 5 to 7. And 24 hours a day, 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, Chinese people will never go there. So the two unique selling points mean nothing. So I helped to remodel the business that would make it something attractive to the Chinese market. Number one, introduce programs that are relevant to that audience, such as body shaping and for mothers to get into shape after having a baby, and for gentlemen to have a slim and athletic physique, but not muscly. Chinese men do not want to be muscly. Chinese women do not want to put muscle and bulk on their body. They want to have thin legs. And gentlemen want to look lean and fit, but never put on a lot of muscle. So you need to change the structure of the program is what you're trying to do. And bulking up, eating protein, things like that, what are you talking about? Like, this is not what people want. So these are some of the things I helped with, is to redesign these programs. So anyway, I'm working with Anytime Fitness. The leaders of the company, we're all in Shanghai on January 19, 2020. This is like about 3 or 4 weeks after the outbreak. We had leases for new shops to open in Shanghai, 4 flagship stores, and a whole range of other clubs about to open. Like, we had this big expansion plan. We're sitting there in the Shanghai office, January 19, I always remember the date, and we said, okay, do we go ahead now, or do we wait for this virus thing, maybe a few weeks
to blow over,
and then we'll go ahead. So the guy said, let's wait a few weeks until this virus thing passes away, and then we'll continue.
Yeah.
So the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, little did we know what was going to come. So
March 30, we all received a call from the headquarters to say that they're putting on hold until further notice. So it never went ahead. However, the entire business model for China for Anytime Fitness is waiting, ready to go. So let's talk about some dates. January 19, I was there in Shanghai. Let's take a break for a few weeks. Okay, I came back to Australia. And the virus thing is starting to build up momentum at this time. People buying masks and people talking about what's going to happen. But I was still working at that time, and my contract was to be in China working for Anytime. So on January 31, I had to make a decision because at midnight that night, Australia was closing the borders. No more flights in or out. And I thought, what do I do? I've got a job over there, that's money. Uncertain here, no money. I decided to book a flight, the last flight out of Australia. It was like 11:30 p.m. on January 31, last flight out of Australia. And heading over to China, not knowing when it was going to open up. We maybe thought a few weeks, a few months most, or whatever. It ended up being 4 years.
Yeah.
And it was not an easy 4 years, especially when the work stopped and you had to tighten the screws on spending and living costs and everything. I moved to a smaller city called Changsha to save costs. I got locked down for months, and I love running. And one of the goals that I always have is to run 50 kilometers every month. And I've done this for more than 10 years, and nothing will stop me from doing this. However, in COVID time, we were locked inside apartments, and they put police tape on the doors. You could not go out. What I did is I would sneak out over my balcony at 3 a.m. in the morning, go down to the car park and go out through the exit door of the car park and put a little stone in the door so it would stay open for me to come back later. And I would go to the river and run at 3 a.m. in the morning and then sneak back in through the door, open a little door with the stone and come back up to my apartment. And I did that for like a few months.
Wow.
Now, to talk about what are the consequences if I get caught, the consequences are you go to prison or you go to the large quarantine centres if you are caught.
So especially as a foreigner, that's probably fairly scary. But,
yeah,
but obviously your desire for mental health overweighed
exactly.
that fear. Yeah. So, and are you single at this time, or is the special person that's in the room with us right now a figment in your life at that point?
So let's talk about Livia.
Wonderful.
More than 2 years ago, I was traveling from Shenzhen to Changsha, and in the middle is Guangzhou. And I happened to stop there. I had like a 2-hour stopover or something on the train. So I just went to a Starbucks. And I sat down at the table. There's this lovely lady sitting at the table next to me. It's pretty busy there, so there's not many places to sit. So I sat kind of close to her and we smiled at each other. And I said, hello, how are you? How are you? Oh, can you speak English? Yeah, I can speak English. Oh, okay. Do you mind if I come and chat with you? So we sat and chatted with each other for 2 hours. Absolutely hit it off. A lot of similarities in character and thinking and everything. Really, really special. Like both of us had warm and fuzzies immediately. I had to go back to home that night. That evening we had another call talk for hours, and then the next day again, and then maybe a few days later we met up, and from there it just it never stopped. So she has been an incredible person in my life, supportive, loving, caring. She comes from the most amazing family that lives in a village outside Guangzhou. Her mama raises chickens and grows vegetables. So when we go there, it's like really going back in time.
Yeah.
And their entire family is like just really incredible and caring. So I've learnt a lot from her, and we support each other a lot. So, and there's been some tough times. There's been times where I have not had income. She's always supported, and she's always believed that, she's believed in me and my ability, and never even questioned once about, when you're going to start working or where's the money going to come and so on. Now, fortunately, the money's coming in again, and, things are better, but you really know the character of a person when times are tough. It's easy to be loving and happy when everything's sweet and everything's good.
Yeah.
But when times are tough, then that's when you know who the people that stick around and who don't.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you. Thumbs up to Olivia.
Shall we introduce her? Just
yeah,
to say hello?
Please. Come around. So now, come join the couch. No pressure. So now we're sort of up at modern day. So Ed, we're here in Australia. We're in Melbourne for a conference. What have you been talking on here?
Okay, so let's shout out to LinkedIn again. About 6 months ago, I got another message on LinkedIn. It's a guy named Chuck. He said, "Hey Ed, my name's Chuck. I'm the CEO of a company called Studio Sweat on Demand. We're looking for a vice president for our company." So I did some research, looked at the company, and I thought, why not me? So I replied to him. I said, I think I'd be suitable for this. And he said, "Oh, but you're not in the US." He was looking for someone in the USA. I said, "Oh, no, I'm in China. However, if you want to grow internationally, you need people on the other side of the world." So we had some great chats, Chuck and Jordan, the two leaders of the company, and we came to an agreement that to grow internationally, they need someone that's international, someone that's got experience. So now VP of the company, Sweat Pro, or Studio Sweat on Demand. They have two programs. One is called Sweat Pro, one is called Sweat Force. Sweat Pro is a commercial product, which is for fitness center owners to put into your club to show virtual online classes for group exercise. The benefits to fitness centers is you don't always have to have a live teacher teaching classes because there's cost involved, and you may not always have many people showing up to classes. So the benefit of having virtual classes is you can run those classes all day, on the hour, every hour, and have classes happening in that room. Some of them are live, some of them are virtual, but you can offer so much more value and variety to your customers.
Yeah,
and the
great.
cost is really, really low. And then the Sweat Force program is for corporate wellness. So working together with companies that want to provide workplace wellness initiatives or programs for their staff, they just buy the Sweat Force program per person per month, very low cost, like we're talking about a couple of dollars. And then the staff get to enjoy the virtual classes on their own devices in their own time as well. And so that way the staff are doing exercise, they're moving, they're much more likely to be healthy and have less time off work and less sickness and better mental health and so on. So I'm here in Melbourne talking a little bit about my background to inspire people that there's a lot out there, there's a lot of opportunities if you are willing to take them. And then, of course, secondly is to launch Sweat Pro into Australia to the fitness industry.
Brilliant.
And we've already got a couple of key accounts here, some legends of the industry that have started the program, and within the first few days got great feedback and adoption rate from the members.
Fantastic. And another one of the things that we're now connected on, you're still based in China, in Guangzhou. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Very multicultural, that's what I am. And you've now just taken up the talk distribution in China. So talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, so first I'm going to shout out to Walter, because I believe Walter should do a podcast with you, and I think that may be on the cards. Walter and I have worked together for almost 2 decades. He's an absolute beautiful gentleman and a legend of the industry. He and I worked together in that first company I spoke about and on a few other projects along the way, including Cooper and a few others as well. It was actually Walter that connected Glenn and I together. And
through the power of LinkedIn again.
Yeah, through the power of LinkedIn.
We sound like we're on a sponsorship from LinkedIn, but it goes to talk about the power of connection.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, a few months ago, Glenn's looking for people that are based in China to be able to represent the brands, and it happened. I'm there, and I'm a person that's quite well connected. And when I learnt more about the brand, I'm certainly very passionate about it. Actually, yesterday we had a funny situation where I was speaking about talk equipment to a gentleman, and Glenn was present. And I was talking so passionately about it, and afterwards Glenn said, "Oh my God, you're going to have my job soon."
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it seems to be a regular pattern, but it's good. I think, one of the things in any organisation, you should look to build in a redundancy for your position. So, keep growing. It's great. So,
but however, like to speak on talk, working on a lot of different projects and working with a lot of different equipment suppliers, and working in China where equipment is very very readily available, and even a lot of lower quality and a lot of copy equipment as well. So how do you bring an international brand that is high quality and make it successful in China? So this is something that has to be navigated carefully, because you need to show what are the real point of differences of torque equipment compared to what's available, possibly at similar price or lower price, or even copy of other name brands. How do you let people, how do you inspire people to say this is what you should be using? The longevity of equipment is something that's really, really important for an investor. It's something that needs to be educated to people when they're setting up a club. Don't skimp on the important things at the beginning, because you will pay much more for it later. And this is certainly true with equipment, with fit outs and decoration. There's some things that are essential to make sure you get it right at the beginning, and you don't need to worry about it for the next 10 to 15 years. So then you can focus on growing your business rather than constantly paying for maintenance and replacements and repairs. So the gauge of the metal for torque is like the heaviest commercial that you can get. The structure of the equipment, some of the innovations for the equipment, such as the tank, which is really, really incredible. There's some great point of differences there that I've already got a lot of people excited about, as you know.
Yeah. So. No, I think it's going to be a really exciting time, and you know, one of the things I've heard you talk a little bit on is strength of brand, but it is quite interesting that a lot of the international brands do go to the Chinese market and other Asian markets for that matter. Talk to me about the strength of a brand, but you touched on it slightly earlier with Anytime. Modification of a brand in a local market is such an important thing to sort of understand. So again, can you sort of touch on a little bit of that? I think Starbucks is probably a good example too.
Yeah, so, okay, let's talk about an interesting story about Starbucks. Many people will not know. Starbucks has been in China for about 20 years. The first 10 years, they lost a lot of money. They were being managed out of Seattle, USA, from headquarters for the first 10 years. And that was the biggest problem, that they were using their familiar business model and trying to use it in a different market. And we're not only talking about China, we're talking about any country you're going to. Understand that country first before you're dropping in your business model. I have seen dozens and dozens of international brands drop their business models into China and lose millions or even billions of dollars. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. Understand the market. Get people that are working there on the ground that understand the market very well, and know how to take your brand and modify it and adapt it for the local market. That's step number one. So after 10 years of failing in China, Starbucks brought in a Chinese lady as the CEO, based in China, set up a headquarters in China. The rest is history. China is now the largest market in the world for Starbucks, and the largest Starbucks shop in the world is in China, in Shanghai. And if you ever visit Shanghai, it's a tourist destination. It's like something you've never seen.
Yeah.
A two-story mammoth behemoth of a building with a coffee factory inside it.
Well, and clearly a great meeting place for new couples to
Yeah.
Shout out to Starbucks.
shout out to the love connection that nobody thought of. So, look, this has been a really fascinating talk, and I feel like we could talk all day. So maybe there'll be a part two
sure.
as things go into the future.
Yeah.
But
I just wanted to touch on one more thing. So let's connect what I just spoke about with Starbucks to talk. Equipment in China. For Chinese companies, actually probably for any country, to be honest, you need to think about how the user's going to use this and what benefits are there for the users. Most personal trainers, to be honest, don't really know how to leverage and maximize the differences of a lot of equipment. They will see a squat rack of this brand and this brand and this brand with some small differences, but to them it's all a squat rack. They don't understand the difference of heavy gauge steel or how to lock the safeties on and things like that. Like, there's some things that people just don't understand. So education for the end user is very important, like the buyer. and then also programs that work together with your product, so people then have something they know how to use the programs they know how to use the equipment with programs. So Tank is a good example. Tank is a really cool machine with wheels on it. You can push it along, you can pull it along. Okay, that's really great. So most personal trainers will push it once, pull it once. Oh, that's really cool. And then they'll never look at it again. But one thing that you do, I know Glenn very well, is hold the workshops for Tank certification, right? So then you show people how to turn this product into something that integrates into your programs and all of the benefits that come from this. And not only Tank, but every piece of equipment should have a program attached to it, and even a certification, so that people now are qualified to teach this and this and this and get the most from it as well. That way the investment from the owner is well worth it, because they're paying for this piece of equipment. It's getting used, there's benefits for the members that are using it, and personal trainers become fans of the equipment as well. That's how the brand grows in China.
Yeah, look, the value of education certainly can't be sort of glossed over, and I think that's going to be really exciting given your background and your connections in the country to see how that rolls out. So
yeah, let's do it. Anything you want to say to the fans?
It's okay. Nice to meet everyone. You had a good day.
Yeah, Glenn. Glenn, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Actually, we've spoken a lot online. We've only met face to face a few times, so I hope we can see each other more often for sure.
You've now given me a reason to be travelling over to China, so put that into the budgets.
The best food for sure. Let's just do a small shout out to China. As I said at the beginning, most people don't really understand the wonder of the country without visiting it. The food, the differences in food, the amazing culture, the friendliness of the people, the welcome attitude of the country, the support of the network, and even the country for foreigners to be able to do business in China as well is quite incredible. They encourage people to do business and to come there and be entrepreneurs as well. So that's why I continue to live there and continue to do business there, because I see there's so many opportunities, and there's a lot that can be learnt in the speed of development and how to come up with an idea and turn it into something very, very quickly. The speed of development is like nothing you've ever seen before. The Chinese approach to business is do it first and fix the problems later, right? The amount of risk management and research and wait till things are right that a lot of other countries take this approach, it's just holding back development. Oh, let's wait till the time's right. Let's wait till we got more money. Let's wait till we find the right people. Okay, waiting. Your competitors have already done it. So do it first, fix the problems later. That's my suggestion.
Yeah. Oh, some valuable business advice and probably something that's resonated throughout your career. So, as I said, exceptionally fascinating. I feel like we could talk forever, but eventually we've got to wrap this up. You've got a presentation to go give. Well, Olivia, thank you for joining us on the couch. Ed, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Right, thank you. Cheers.
And for the listeners, hopefully we've enjoyed Ed's story, and more to come. That's it from this episode.